What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Pigskins Pinfalls. I'm Dick Burns.
I'm Bobby Boomerang. We're here to talk an update on Kairi Sane to the 2024 Hall of Fame.
Okay. Which is funny because I have Kairi saying it's like the very last bit of news that we have this week, but it's okay. We're here to talk everything this week from career-ending injuries to Hall of Fame affinities. I told you, I'm really proud of that one.
Not
That
bad.
that last second.
We pulled that one.
Yeah, that one
Yep.
came the last second.
I think the hardest part of this is the title.
We've said that a couple times, like at least the past couple
Yeah.
episodes in a row now, how much we struggle with the
Yeah.
title because it's the last thing we think of.
Because also, I mean, outside of the title, it's just two buddies talking shit. So
Right? I was literally thinking about this earlier. I was like, anybody can go to, and you can go to anybody for the news, especially people that have probably watched everything and covered everything better. You're here for the genuine experience of the two of us talking shit. That's what people
literally,
are tuning in for. That's the fun of it. So,
yep.
with that note, I'd like to start out. What was the date last week of the last episode we recorded? What was last Tuesday?
8-1.
What do we normally do on August 1st? What has now dominated our weekend discussion?
G1.
No. The start of the fantasy football season.
Oh my God, that yeah.
We
Oh
completely blanked on that. I was so focused on getting the podcast out last week that I missed my own deadline to get everything set up because
yeah.
I was just like I was so exhausted and everything. I didn't even realize it until like a day and a half later. I was like, "Oh fuck. August 1st, I need to reactivate the league."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we've been co-commissioners of this league for 6 years now. This is our sixth
Yep.
season. We've had a league that we've had people coming in and out. We've been doing this thing, and this is I bring this up because inevitably we're going to be talking about this league a lot on this show. Like this is y'all are going
Absolutely.
to be following along most likely. In addition to that, we have a tradition. The draft we always do the Tuesday night before our before the opening of the season. So we'll have our draft on September 5th.
Which our group could not grasp this year. Good God, all of the people in our group
We had
messaging
that
could
moment like, as
not
soon as we
grasp.
started, like as soon as somebody first mentions like, "Are we? What's going on with fantasy this year?" I was like, "We will decide on that August 1st," and then I missed my own deadline, so it ended up being like August 3rd, 4th when I sent out invites and everything. But I mean, we were all set up, nice, ready to go. Well, now we're all nice and set up and ready to go. Thankfully, we had everything. You and me started doing all the planning on the league for this season back in like before the last season ended.
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, we did all the planning. We had already decided who was leaving, who was coming
First
in,
invite, second invite.
who was who was likely to, like, if anybody was to step out, who was going to be the first people to get invited in, stuff like that.
Yep.
And it all came together like perfectly. I've already got even collected half the dues for our league. That says
Which
something.
that does not happen in our league,
You
unfortunately.
know, people like to dawdle on payments. At the same time, I
Mhm.
dawdled on paying everybody out last year, but that's also because I was kind of going through our financial struggles, so it happens.
Life.
That's life,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
Speaking of
yeah.
life, I want to point out how you are on location this week. You are not
Yeah.
home.
I am not. I am not. I am in beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, on my family vacation. Got the whole family here: mom, brother, girlfriend, son, brother's boyfriend. Like it is all of us in
Yeah,
one house.
Ollie's
But
like 3 hours away from me.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But
But at the
Pigs
same
here in
time,
Pinfall, we don't like missing weeks. I know we've had to miss a few weeks in the past,
we
but
missed an entire
you
month
know,
recently.
yeah.
So
But nah, the show goes on.
the show does go on, and it's okay. The other big thing that everybody comes to us for is because, of course, we did our picks last week for SummerSlam. You can't see it on your end because
No,
you're basically running off of your phone, so you're going to be going in and out too. That's another
I
thing. I'm having to lead this conversation. It's okay. We're going to make it work. But we tied essentially, and of course, you being champion, you retain. You did have Logan Paul winning instead of Ricochet. You had Rollins
yep.
winning instead of Balor, so that you had those
Mhm.
2 points over me. Neither one of us got the women's title match right because
Yeah.
you said Charlotte, I said Asuka. Bianca won. I called that Priest wasn't going to cash in, and I also called that Dom was going to get involved in Balor Rollins and fail miserably. I called
Yep.
that one right as it was. And we'll talk about that. Like, and I bring this up because, of course, we want to go ahead and do our review of SummerSlam. Again, we don't recover every show, but I gotta say, for a big four, this was a very underwhelming show. I understand it broke a lot of records left and right when it comes to like gate, viewership, like all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. Like we were talking about it this week. The build to the build to SummerSlam has been kind of mid, and
Hmm.
some of these matches ended up being kind of mid in return.
Yeah. So, like I said, I'm on a family vacation, and I flew in Saturday, so I wasn't able to watch SummerSlam live. Still, honestly, haven't even really been able to watch it. I've watched a couple of reviews from some of our favorite other YouTubers.
I want to pose an idea here. As we review this show, we'll go match by match. I want you to be the voice of the IWC.
Okay.
I want you to be the voice of what everyone else has been saying on YouTube, because I've come to the point I've started tuning out everybody else. I'm
Okay.
at this point now where it's just like I want to be able to make my own decisions about these things, like my own analysis. Again, that's what you're coming
That's
here for,
fair.
is for our analysis, not just another review of what's going on here. You know what I mean? So
Correct.
to start things off, we have Logan Paul versus Ricochet. Now it's reported beforehand. Look, this match was scheduled to open the show specifically because Logan Paul wanted to get out of there and go see his brother fight Nate Diaz.
Which was then later confirmed because there's a picture of Jake and Logan backstage with Logan still in his gear
Yep.
at Jake's fight.
Yeah, and he literally rushed to get there. So,
Hmm.
I mean, however you feel about the guy, however you feel about the way this match went, whatever. At the same time, he kind of wanted to be there for his brother. Good on him for that, and it's amazing that they were able to pull that off. So good on them. So
Absolutely.
now that being said, let's stop. Let's get rid of that and let's start taking the bias into case. Logan Paul is such a fucking prick. I cannot fucking stand how good he is. He's too good too soon. I don't like it.
Doing his job.
And they put on, they definitely, like, there's definitely, you didn't get the two holy shit chants. I don't think you got any holy shit chants on that one, but they didn't get too experimental with their spots. A lot of Spanish flies. Logan Paul hit a beautiful buckshot out of the ring. He literally like flipped out of the ring as part of the buckshot lariat and hit Ricochet on the floor. That was nasty, and he hit it with so much ease. The ending, though, you just have some guy, a member of his entourage sneak up, sneak some brass knucks onto his hand. Yes, you protect Ricochet, but
So, as the voice of the IWC right now, that was what a lot of people are complaining about, was the ending. They knew that this match wasn't going to be too much of a storytelling match. We're not getting a bloodline storyline out of Ricochet and Logan Paul.
no.
A lot of people expected it to be a spot fest, but what people are upset about was it was like an unnamed member of his entourage just snuck out and put the brass knucks on. Like, it wasn't KSI, it wasn't
Yeah.
Jake Paul. And like, obviously, Jake Paul's like busy fighting somebody in a few hours anyway, so I understand that. But people were upset because they're like, who is this person?
And I can agree with that, because especially the way they made such a big deal at WrestleMania about KSI coming out. So, like,
Right.
I can see how people are expecting now. It's just like, oh, well, now we need something. I mean, it gets the story done the way they want it to be done, but I don't know. I don't
mean,
know about this one.
For what it was a good opening match. The ending kind of floundered a little bit, but yeah, I mean, overall, from everything that I had watched and I had listened to, it was a good match until the final like 5 minutes, and then it was kind of a deflating ending, especially because it was an unnamed person. It's not like, again, had it been KSI or Jake Paul or even that other dude that does Impulsive with Logan. I don't even know his name.
Any of his other like co-hosts that actually like has some name value that you can be like, oh, that's so and so, not just
Right.
some unnamed dude in a black shirt with sunglasses on.
Right.
Looked so like in nondescript. And I get that could be like this part of the storytelling device, but it's still like, I don't know how I feel about that one.
Yeah, yeah, you're not alone on that.
And at the same time, like this whole like the everything was great until the last 5 minutes became a running theme in this entire show.
That's not a way you want your match described. You
No.
don't want people to say it was great until the end.
Yeah, that's not how. Especially when you're saying that like 4 or 5 times throughout the night, as we'll get to, that's
On a
again
nine
going
match
into
card.
that like this was not as good of a show as they made it out to be.
On a 9 match card, yeah.
Yeah, Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. We get the rubber match. I mean,
If we're not going on last, we're going on first. But if we're not going on first, we're going on second.
I don't think it was anything like that. I think it was more so like of the 4 branded main events, that one like, for one, why are you branding 4 main events?
It's
You did not need, and if that's the case, for 2, why was Cody Rhodes Brock Lesnar not the fourth to last match?
I hate the term co-main event. Now you're sitting here saying 4 main event. I mean,
Right.
before you know it, WrestleMania is just going to be a card of main events.
I mean, essentially that's what it has become, anyways. And Triple H actually mentioned that in the post show press conference. It was when they discussed about how everyone was complaining about how Rhea and Raquel got removed from the card, and Becky and Trish got removed from the card. He was very quick to point out, he was just like, they were never on the card to begin with. They never really got removed. I want people to be able to say, I have, like, they got enough time out of these matches, and like we're able to build that storyline instead of trying to rush everything.
I'm
Instead of
okay
like,
with that.
yeah, I'm okay with it. Like them moving Becky Trish to Winnipeg on Raw and like next week, like they're using that as a reason to give them like a main event slot and give them like a solid 20 minutes. I'm not gonna complain. When otherwise you're gonna end up having to take time away from everybody else that was on that card. We're trying to get more to focused matches where people get their time. A lot of these matches tonight, this week, like on SummerSlam, they at least went a solid like I think every match, with the exception of obviously the cash in, went more than 10 minutes. Everyone got time.
And dude, like, I'm okay if you change the wording and say we have 4 matches worthy of a main event.
That
I'm
too.
okay with that.
All right, we're moving past the whole what's a main event, what's not a main event. I'm just saying
The
like,
main event, the main event is the last match of the card.
yes,
Period.
agreed. Would you rather them not get like 5 minutes on the big card, or would you rather them take a different card and get a solid 20, 25 minutes to tell their story and actually like be the stars they're meant to be? Like, think about it. If you had put Becky Trish on that SummerSlam card, how much time would they have
7 minute,
gotten?
7 minute match at most.
They'd be lucky to get 5.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that. Cody and Brock rubber match, no rubber chicken.
No rubber chicken. It was a very by the numbers match. They actually did a really good job with all the false finishes. You didn't know who would like. At the same time, yes, it was a rubber match, but you really couldn't tell which one of the two was going to be the one to win. Like it could have gone
Right.
either way the entire time, and they really sold it. Like, granted, like the part with Brock consistently knocking Cody out of the ring over and over and over again, trying to go for the count out and just like stay down. It got tiring. I see what they were doing. They did it. They could have taken 1 or 2 of those off of it.
You know what I didn't like? I did not like Cody putting Brock in Kimura. I didn't like that because I don't think that that's believable.
I think it is because Cody has, and he actually said this, is that he always loves to take some elements from the people that he wrestles. He's been doing that for ages. And that's like the one time when you know that you're most comfortable is when you're that guy that puts someone in their own finisher. That's a classic trope that doesn't get used often. But I remember that was like a big key thing in like some of the old like WWE 2K games was having the
Steal a finisher.
yeah, having steal a finisher as a like an option. It's seeing somebody that does that. I'm actually okay with that. Now, if he starts using the Kimura regularly, then it's nah. Then we're out of it.
No, Brock is like a legit bat, and I'm not saying Cody's not. That documentary on Peacock, by the way, Chef's Kiss. I watched it on the flight. It was amazing.
Told you.
And Cody does have amateur wrestling backgrounds. For those of you that may or may not know that, he does have. You know, he won a state title in Georgia. But my thing is the size difference doesn't make sense. If Cody put a Kimura on Ricochet, okay, that makes sense. But for Cody to put it on Brock,
Counterpoint: Cody is bigger than you think.
he
Build
ain't 270. He ain't
no,
275.
no, but you're sitting here talking about him putting it on Ricochet like he's 200 pounds. I think he was billed I think at 227. Like, granted, not everybody's gonna be built like Brock to be that 265 powerhouse. Yes, but that doesn't mean Cody's that much smaller than him. Like 30 pounds is there's a big difference between being 30 pounds outsized and being 70-pound outsized.
You're right. I'll give you that. You're right. You're right. So ultimately, yeah, like Cody won, and Brock hugged him. Brock shook his hand.
That was off the right. That was off script too.
Yeah.
That was
okay,
another big thing, and everyone was talking about that. Was Brock gave that endorsement like that was a shoot. That was a shoot, brother.
Like, yeah, like if you go back and you watch like that clip, like that last few minutes, and you see when Brock comes back to like stand up to Cody, if you look at Cody's face, he genuinely has that like blank look of like, what are we doing?
Yeah, Triple H was actually the one that during the press conference that said he was the one that went off script, because they actually asked Cody, one of the questions that was asked him at the press conference was, how do you, like, what impact did that, like, what was that exchange like between you and Brock? And he's just like, honestly, I'm still processing that. Like, I'm still like the gravity of that hasn't fully hit me yet. And then that's when you find out afterwards in the press conference.
Such a Cody answer.
It really is. But at the same time, then you hear from Triple H, is like, oh no, that was unplanned. He really didn't know how to react. And I think over the next couple days, it's going to hit him a lot harder than he thinks.
It's a huge endorsement.
It's a huge endorsement. Especially like when the whole big argument came after WrestleMania 39, and they had that first moment of Brock comes out and hits Cody out of surprise on that first episode of Raw, and that starts this feud off.
Which we still don't know. We still don't know why he did it.
Exactly. That was the other thing too, is they didn't really explain it that well. It didn't really get explained that well. They winged it.
Didn't get explained at all.
But it did still give us 3 damn good matches.
Hey, amen, brother.
It got to where it needed to be. Is this it for Brock?
Brock retires at Mania. Maybe not this Mania, but Brock retires at a Mania.
I'm not even saying retirement. I'm just saying, like, maybe this is the end of his run. Maybe he disappears to his farm again for a little bit.
He could always, as long as Brock stays in the shape he's into now or close to it, he can always be used as a special attraction, a la Undertaker.
Yeah, I agree. Like, but I just think that we're on the verge of him taking a couple months off, letting him fade away.
Would not be surprised if we did not see Brock again until January in the Rumble.
I'd be okay with that. And then that sets up and then whenever that does, sets up his Mania feud.
Yep, exactly.
Oh my God, what if we actually get a proper Brock Bobby next year?
I hope so, because it's been shit this year. Not to go off on a tangent, just a quick question. What's next for Cody?
I don't know. Because last night they basically had it where he's like getting involved with all the issues with Judgment Day. And they kind of tease like the dissension between him and Seth, and possibly saying like he's eventually going to go after Seth's title. But we'll get to that after we talk about Rollins Balor.
All right.
We'll get to that. Slim Jim Battle Royal.
Oh, yeah.
The right person won.
Of course. Duh.
Yeah. The return of Omos. Great to see. And the whole, like, we can't start the MVP coming out. Is like, no, we're not starting this match without the entrant that's going to win this whole thing, reintroducing Omos.
How are we going to get him out? He's 400 pounds and 7 feet tall.
8 people all team up together to get him out.
Yeah. Who'd have thought?
Let me see. Can I pull up the order? Like, do they have the listing of like the order that people got eliminated? So the final 4 came down to. Well, actually, I want to know the final 5, because Chad Gable came in 5th and he had a damn good showing.
Yes, he did.
Gable is.
And speaking as the voice of the IWC, which is what you asked me to do for this review, a lot of people were thrilled that Gable got a showing.
We'll talk about it more when it comes time for Gunther versus Drew, but Gable's our new after last night on Raw. Gable's our new number one contender for the IC.
It sucks because Gunther's breaking. It doesn't suck because I think Gunther breaking the Honky Donkey Man's record is good.
We're gonna get to
But
that. We'll get to that when we get to Gunther Sheamus. First, let's focus more on the battle royal right now. We'll talk more about that when we get to the IC.
all right,
Miz and Waller having a moment. I feel like that might be a past and future thing that we may have seen coming. I don't know.
yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing Waller and Miz being a tag team, even though I still think it should be Waller in theory. But
either way, honestly, I can see that. I can see both working.
and Waller's just a damn good on the mic. Also,
Mhm.
LA Knight versus Miz. I hate the fact that LA Knight is on Raw. I I'm okay with it because they can advertise it as he won this battle royal. That he's allowed to go to both shows. But if it means we're getting LA Knight versus Miz based off that first promo package we got last night, I want every bit of this. I
Mm-hmm.
want every bit of it. Final four was Bronson Reed, AJ Styles, Sheamus, and of course LA Knight. LA Knight gets the win. And then, if it wasn't meant to be more than ever, the minute the match is over and he's celebrating in the ring, they immediately cut to a Slim Jim commercial with LA Knight and Bianca Belair. If
Yeah,
that didn't telegraph everything as much, I mean, we all knew he was winning, but it made it
of
even
course.
more obvious when they immediately turn around and put him in the commercial that's aired right after it.
Hmm?
Like, you know he was winning that match weeks ago, if that's the case. Remember when Triple H was saying good things come to those who wait? The good things came.
Yeah.
He was right. And was I not the one to say this after Money in the Bank?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I didn't want to put a Nostradamus stamp on it because it's too obvious. But I knew we were getting something at SummerSlam. Somebody during the press conference was like, "Why was Austin Theory in the Battle Royal? Wouldn't you rather have had your U.S. champion defending?" He's like, as U.S. champion, he'd want to fight for that endorsement. Like, why would he not want to fight for that endorsement? Yeah, it's not a matter of like whether or not he has a match on the card. Like, that's a fair argument.
The good way to spin it.
That's a very fair argument. Shayna Baszler defeats Ronda Rousey in an MMA rules match. First off, nobody really knows what an MMA rules match is.
Nope.
Second off, you can't really do that much of MMA and still have it be wrestling and talk about how credible it is.
Correct.
Three, the most important thing out of this, though, Shayna beats Ronda, and the crowd is basically shouting, "Thank you, Shayna." And that carried on into Monday night. We
Yeah.
please let this be. Yes, we get it. Yeah, we were already talking about it. Ronda's leaving, but please let this be the return of like dominant Shayna. Please.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I think that that's what we should focus on because I think we should focus more on Shayna's rise than Ronda's exit. You want to talk about telegraph? We
Mhm.
knew Shayna was going to win.
Oh yeah, agreed. But again, like, and the fact that they've always talked about how they wanted to do this, it was rushed.
Very.
It was very rushed, and because of that, it's whatever. Um, but yeah, it's just I just really hope that we don't end up going back on all of this. We don't ruin
Yeah.
all the goodwill we've done.
Like we did with Shayna previously when she eliminated everybody in an elimination chamber match.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't
Good
want to
for you,
spend too
Shayna.
much time on that. That was the one match on the show that didn't go 10 minutes. 7.5 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, and also from the things that I heard and read, and that was the least impressive match of the night for most fans.
Hands
So
down.
yeah, moving on.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was rushed. We all wanted to get it out, done and over with. Ronda's been checked out. It's whatever. All right, now let's move on to the Intercontinental Championship match. Gunther defeating Drew McIntyre. As we were saying from the very beginning, there was no way that Gunther was not winning this match. They were guaranteed to still put on a hard-hitting match, and it was still going to be entertaining. And honestly, I think it under-delivered.
Yep, and that's what. Yeah, you're not alone.
So
You are not alone.
we've already established Gunther's breaking the record. That's been the big talk. They want Gunther to break the record. He deserves to break the record. I've been saying for weeks now, though, that this title reign is very quickly getting stale, and this is a great
Yeah.
example of it because at this point it's just like, all right, whatever. Now they pointed out on commentary, next month is when that record is broken.
Yeah.
We're coming up like,
September.
yeah, we're coming up at a point now where people that are starting to challenge could potentially be the ones to dethrone. And that's why I want to loop back around to Chad Gable. Now, last night they had that number one contenders battle, fatal four way, 4-pack contenders, however you want to name it. They have that contenders match, damn good match. It was just a straight up like that was a Triple H match if ever there was one, and
Hmm.
Gable wins. Gable is your new number one contender for the Intercontinental title at a time where it is very possible they can extend that feud out enough that Gable finally wins the big one.
Yeah, because like you said, I agree. I think the title reign's getting a little stale, and I don't see him smashing Honky Tonk's record.
That's for one. But for two, again, like this is more on a testament to how good Gable has been over the past couple months, taking his role that he's been given, which was kind of a comedy tag team role and all this stuff, making himself shine, and then still turning all of this, turning chicken shit into chicken salad, and
Hmm.
becoming one of the most over acts on the show.
Absolutely.
Maybe this is his time, and how big of a David versus Goliath story can you tell with Chad Gable
Then
being the one to dethrone?
and Shorty G versus Walter.
How much of a David versus Goliath show can that be when you do that?
Yeah. What's our
Please.
next PLE?
Payback.
Payback.
Yeah, and I think Payback is right before the record is broken. It's either right before
Okay.
or right after. It's around the time. So like we're playing real close. That's why I say it's possible.
Yeah. Extend the feud a little bit, maybe.
Carry it out for a few weeks. We'll see how it goes. Seth Rollins beats Finn Balor. Again, this is a great example. They were having a great match, the great storytelling, and then we got to that final 5 minutes. And then all the convoluted Judgment Day getting involved, Priest sliding the briefcase in, Rollins hitting the stomp on the briefcase, like Damien just sitting there looking at him like, bruh, come on, what are you doing? Like,
Hmm.
we're getting further dissension teased in Judgment Day. We've moved on. We've established that Seth has beaten Finn. We can move on
Yeah.
from this because honestly, that
Hmm.
feud was starting to get a little bit old as well. And again, that ending, I get that they were trying to do the whole dissension in Judgment Day, and we're slowly getting there, but it didn't move as smoothly as people wanted to. Judgment Day is still probably one of the most over is still one of the most over acts. End of that match, it was sloppy.
Yeah.
Storyline wise, it'll get there, but the match was sloppy.
Yep. Agreed. You're not, again, that's pretty much the consensus.
Bianca, Asuka, Charlotte. Now, you asked me about this earlier. There was a point in this match. I mean, first off, the three of them still put on a great match. The way they did everything, honestly, it reminded me of Lesnar, Cena, Rollins from the Rumble that one year. It was a great reminder of that, only the women's version. Now,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
halfway through the match, Bianca starts selling I can't remember if it was a knee or a leg injury, a knee or an ankle, one of the two. It was one of the joints in the leg. She starts selling I think it was the knee. She starts selling the shit out of it. They start doing the whole like, oh, they start carrying her to the back. She's getting left out. Then Asuka and Charlotte just turn into a one-on-one match. Then she like pushes everybody off of her as they're going up the ramp, and she runs back in and gets involved. Hits a beautiful 450 at one point while still trying to
Hmm.
sell this knee injury. And this is what I told you right before we went on the air. The minute that Bianca started selling that injury was the
You saw
minute
where it was going.
you knew exactly where everything was going. You knew exactly how this match was ending. It may have taken another 10 minutes to get there, but any wrestling fan worth their salt that has watched enough wrestling knows how that match is ending. Bianca comes
Hmm.
in as the unlikely challenger, sells that knee injury, sells that she wins the match barely, gets the win, and then as she's selling the knee injury, Here comes Io and Bailey. We get ourselves our little bonus match. Io cashes in on a wounded Bianca who just won her title, which again, let's not forget this adds a title reign to Bianca's reigns. Like,
Won her title back. Yeah.
yeah, like she still can say that she had that title. That counts as a title reign. We see
It
this
does.
happen all the time. Somebody is the valiant, I won the championship, but immediately they're gonna drop it because they're injured. Not the first time
Yeah.
we've seen this. It helps Bianca like increase her reigns, which in
Mm-hmm.
reality, she had that record-breaking long reign already as it was. Like, let her have. If she now she's trying to pad the numbers on how many championships she wins. So
Yeah.
that's a good way to do it. Let her get this
Yeah.
W, pads her numbers. Io comes out, she gets the win. Obviously, a surprise appearance from Dakota Kai coming out to celebrate at the end of it. Of course, Dakota Kai is still out with her injury. All three of them appeared on the post show. She basically says, "I'm still a ways out from being cleared for in-ring competition, so don't expect her to be coming back anytime soon." But she
Yeah.
even said herself, she's like, "There was no way I was missing this." They became a team last year at SummerSlam. They made their
Yep.
debut, and a year later, look at where they are now. They're doing a really good job at not immediately breaking up stables. Because let's not forget, we
Yeah.
were talking that long ago about how much longer before Bailey starts turning on Io. We're
We thought it was
getting,
going to happen at Money in the Bank.
yeah, we thought it was gonna happen a lot sooner than that.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, we thought it was gonna happen right after Mania. What I like about this is that they're getting to a point now where stables don't immediately get broken up. If they don't get immediately broken up and have dissension because of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they're allowing them to still be a team. It reminds me of when Jamie Hayter won the title and they were like, "Is Britt gonna turn on Jamie Hayter?" And she's like, "No, I'm gonna stand by my friend." Right now, I'm feeling the same thing out of Bianca and Io, or not Bianca, Bailey and Io.
Yeah.
So yeah, the last takeaway I have from this match though, the disrespect for Asuka continues. At the same time, as great as this was for everybody else, this is another instance of Asuka getting the shaft, and it sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah.
I hate seeing how poorly Asuka gets treated, but at the same time, we all knew this was coming, and this was still the story that needed to be told.
Yeah.
This needs
I
to
would-
Asuka needs to immediately be the first challenger for Io to get the title, like to immediately be like, no, I want the title back. And they need to put on some stellar matches.
Mhm.
Be if only to restore Asuka's credibility. And I know the two of them can put on a damn good match.
Oh yeah. I wish we could have got Asuka in WWE 5 years earlier.
Agreed. I mean, she was still like killing it in NXT 5 years ago, but still, like
Mm-hmm.
what they need to do in order to keep Asuka at least some modicum of strong, they need Asuka to put on a series of bangers with Io, and they have plenty of history with one another. Their
Oh
history.
yeah.
Let's not forget the famous baka 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 bitch. We'll never forget that greatest moment in the WWE for the women's division. One of the greatest moments. Final match: Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Tribal Combat. This was 36 minutes of bullshit. This is where everything comes to a head. We were complaining about how some people haven't been getting time. That's why they had to get cut from the show. We complained about things that don't make sense, and that's what brings things down. We were talking about matches where the last 5 minutes everything goes to shit. All of that converges right here on our main event.
Yes. On the real main event.
My first problem. Tribal Combat, they even said from the very beginning no one was allowed to get involved. Why the fuck were Solo and Jimmy involved? Why?
The reason I'm being quiet is because I don't have an answer for you.
They started teasing Roman and Solo like dissension. That's good. That is good.
Yes.
You did good there.
Yes.
But then you end the match with Jimmy pulling Jay out of the ring without any reasoning. Not even like if you would have had Jimmy at least super kick Jay, it would have been better. It would have been better. But the fact that you didn't even
Yeah.
give us that much, you just had a stare down. Why?
For what? For what?
For what?
Like,
There's no reasoning behind it. If Jay doesn't, I remember who said it. Who said it? But if Jay doesn't come out on, or Jimmy doesn't come out on Friday, and have at least a damn good excuse for all of this, because I texted you before the show, and I was just like, I just thought of the best called shot, and I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner. And I was gonna say that Jimmy comes back and neutralizes Solo. We didn't expect Jimmy to come back and actually turn on Jay. And granted, I was
right,
calling for Jimmy versus Jay months ago when they were still having the dissension with KO and Sammy. I think this is
yep,
6 months too late. Now,
yeah. Especially after we saw Jay back Jimmy.
exactly. Like after all of that.
It's been a great storyline, but not all of it has been great. And I
No.
think this is an example of where the bloodline is. I mean,
It was a miss.
Raymond, yeah,
It was a miss.
Roman's
I'm sorry. They whiffed. They
first
whiffed on
year
this
was
one.
surprised that Roman retained. I mean, we all have a feeling he's dropping it at Mania 40 in Philly. So,
Again, at this
but
point,
yeah,
at this point in the reign, the only proper time to drop that title is Mania. That's the only way you can
yeah,
do it. At this, dropping it on any other show just would not be worth it.
he ain't dropping it at Payback.
Hell no. Anyways, the one thing I was expecting you to mention was how the entire IWC is saying that the entire Bloodline story has quote unquote jumped the shark.
Yeah, okay. A lot of people are. I haven't seen Jump the Shark, but I've seen the Bloodline story is stale,
That's literally
and the
like
reason
all the
same thing.
like all the different people I've seen that were like doing reviews of SummerSlam and the end of the show. That's literally like what's in everyone's thumbnail is jump the
Yeah,
shark.
yeah, no, like so. Yes, that is the IWC saying that, but I'm not saying that because I don't agree with it.
I'm not saying it either.
What
I don't agree either.
it goes back to at WrestleMania when everybody was pissed off that Roman beat Cody, and we came on this show 2 days after night 2 of WrestleMania, and I said, "Let's wait, let's see where the story takes us." Because, and I even said it after the Cody fight. I said, "There's a lot of meat left on this bone."
Mm-hmm.
And again, there is a lot of meat left. We can still get Jimmy and Jay. We can still get Solo and Roman. We can still get Paul Heyman leaving Roman. Like, like it's not. The problem is I honestly I think this is partly WWE. Well, to a lesser extent WWE's fault, and to a bigger extent Vince McMahon's fault,
Mm-hmm.
because we've been conditioned under Vince's rule to expect things to be quick, and we get moments, and we don't get long-term storytelling, and we don't get these well thought out plans that when something like this happens,
Mm-hmm.
we're like, well, 5 years ago storylines would just get dropped week to week, and we wouldn't even, there'd be no continuity.
Yeah.
Well, now if something doesn't go our way, some wrestling fans ways, they're going to piss and moan and sit in their shitty diaper and complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
Give it time, guys. Give it time. If Roman drops the fucking belt at Payback to Marseille, we can shit all over it. But until that happens, like it's really hard because wrestling is year round. There is no off season,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really hard to like take a step back and take a look at those things. But like let the storyline breathe. And I understand it's been a 3-year storyline, and I get all of that. But like, it has not jumped the shark.
No.
And
There's still plenty to go.
Right, and maybe Friday night Jimmy comes out and he says something like, this was a tribal chief, for the title of tribal chief, and how come nobody didn't ask if I wanted to be tribal chief? And then it makes sense.
That would be a great way to explain it. And if he comes out on Friday and does that, it makes it a little bit better. And that's proof, again, there's plenty of meat left on the bones.
Yep.
All right.
So
We've said it pretty much all that we have to on that. Yeah.
patience.
Yes, patience is the final word on that. Overall, now you said you haven't watched the show. Are you still comfortable giving a rating?
I am.
What do you think?
I'm giving it 3 1/3.
I'm giving it 3 1/3 as well. Okay, we
I'm
agree.
giving it.
We
Yeah,
agree.
I am giving it, and it's funny because you asked me to be the voice of the IWC, and based off of the things that I without having watched any of it myself, that's what I'm going to give it.
Mhm.
I think because I am typically a bit more level-headed than the most internet wrestling fans,
Mhm.
I probably would have voted it higher myself had I witnessed it. But based off of the knowledge I have through third parties, I feel comfortable giving it 3 1/3.
Again, I think in the spirit of how underwhelming everything felt, like all the builds felt and everything, that further pushes like it was an aggressively mid show, three and a
I
third.
I also I also think if this was Payback, we'd be giving if this exact show as it was happened on a B level pay per view, we would have given it a higher rating. But
Absolutely.
because it's SummerSlam and because we've grown to expect big things out of our big four.
You build, yeah, if you're gonna build this, not just the fact that it's a big four, you build the SummerSlam to be your second show. I'd
Yes,
argue that the like you build SummerSlam to be your second show because that was your second big pay per view.
correct.
But this was not worthy. I think this show was not. It was a good show, but it was not worthy of the SummerSlam name.
Perfect way to put it.
Let's finally move on from SummerSlam to talk about some things that we're talking about during SummerSlam weekend, and that's a bunch of health updates. We have
Yeah.
three major WWE injuries that we have to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the biggest one first, and that's Big E. Now, I have some direct. He did a before SummerSlam, like during the build, like he was doing all the press and everything. He did an interview. I think it was last Thursday or Friday, and I watched the whole. Like I watched a good portion of it. Like, the biggest part that I really wanted to see though was him talking about the health update.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a great press conference in general. Like he gave a lot of insight on a lot of the stuff that was going on, but the big thing that everyone wanted to know about was how's his neck. So these are the direct quotes of what he said. We did the year checkup and all that stuff looked great, but on the other side, I talked to spine specialists, people who have worked on other people in the company and done their fusions, and they said like, "Hey, I wouldn't wrestle again if I were you. I don't really have a timeline right now. I'm just really grateful to not have any nerve pain. My strength is great, legit no issues, whatever. So it's just something I want to be smart about and make the very best decision for my life. Hopefully, I'd like to have a lot of healthy life ahead of me. Unfortunately, right now, I have no answers. I feel great, but yeah, I have nothing."
Yeah.
He did further go on to discuss like potentially going on to commentary, which of course very very similar situation to Corey Graves and why he ever stepped out of the ring and stepped behind the commentary booth.
Yeah.
I think if that is to be what his future is for a little while, or even permanently, like so be it. Like he has openly stated like he's at least keeping very high spirits. He's always kept high spirits through this whole thing,
Always.
and
Always.
like he's never let it really get to him. But he basically like during that press conference he showed of an air of a person that's like he calls it out. He's like, dude, I'm like 37. I'm 37 years old. That's still like this isn't. I don't want my life to end because I made that bad decision. Like yes, when I was
Yeah.
younger, I was carefree and like living with a death wish, and that's why I was taking some of these bumps that I was. But
Yeah.
like
And that's what he said. He was like, at 23 years old, when I kind of sort of had a death wish, I probably would have been okay with dying in the ring. But now at 37, there's other things I want to do with my life, and I completely respect that. Obviously, here at Pigskin and Pinfalls, we wish him nothing but the best in whatever he decides to do. Uh, I don't see Big E being somebody who rides off into the sunset and we never hear from him again. I think he'll always be in some form of media, and that will provide entertainment to his fans, which is honestly all we can hope for at this point, because he is one of the most entertaining men I've ever seen in my life.
I'm not gonna lie, ever since he put the thought on everybody's head about him going into commentary, I can't think of anything else I want more now. I would love to see him on
Bro,
commentary. Use him.
let him and Pat McAfee call a fucking card together.
No, I honestly no. I want to see Big E and Corey call a card together.
That would be great because you have overly optimistic face in Big E and ultimate pessimist in Corey
But
Graves.
at the same time, they're so quick to like rattle back and forth off one another because they're both
Mhm.
so quick witted. I
Yes.
think the two of them could make magic. And the fact that honestly, I wouldn't. I would expect nothing less if Big E were to go down that road. I think Corey would be the best person to work with and give his own personal advice based on his own health experiences.
Correct.
The night I got into NXT was Takeover London, which was Corey Graves' first night on commentary. His very first night, and from the first night, he was amazing at it. I have no doubt Big E could make that same transition.
Agreed. Agreed.
Moving on from one career-ending injury to another, or potential career-ending injury to another potential career-ending injury, Randy Orton has been discussed. Because a lot of people have been asking, is he healed? Is he not? He's been off TV. He's been super quiet. Per Fightful Select, this is the report that we got. Orton has not been factored into WWE creative plans whatsoever, and he is still not clear from his medical conditions to return to in-ring action. Orton is still looking to return to the ring, despite doctor's advice. He hasn't started in-ring training yet, but he has begun gym sessions for weightlifting, and from what everyone is reporting, he looks like a brick shithouse.
Nice.
Which,
nice.
If that's
Randy
the case,
Orton already looked.
Picture Randy Orton coming in looking like the same size as Brock.
Right.
And that's just being like, I'm coming back with a vengeance to end my career.
Yeah.
That would be disgustingly good.
And, and like obviously, like we always want to see our wrestlers, especially longtime wrestlers like Randy and Big E, end it on their own terms.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I hope he can come back if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah. Let's move from the two career-ending potential injuries to the not so career-ending, and actually the first injury of a career.
It's not career-ending, but it's year-ending.
Year-ending, I think, is a good way to put it. Yeah, she's definitely going to be out for the rest of the year. So Sonya Deville reports. It was reported on TMZ that Sonya Deville had tore her ACL in their match on Friday against Bianca and Charlotte. Fightful was able to confirm it, and then shortly after that, Sonya herself posted a personal video, like a talk of like her just giving her top thoughts on TikTok. Our buddy Josh actually sent that to us earlier today, and
shout out
Josh. And I got a chance to watch it, and she really put things into perspective. Now, I've always liked Sonya, like as a performer and everything. I feel like she's been dealt a pretty rough hand before. Of course, right before the pandemic, she had that issue with a stalker that took her off television right around the time that she was having that big build with Mandy. Like, she basically said on TikTok that, she's been wrestling for 8 years. This is her first major injury, and it's coming right after she won her very first title, which is something that, again, she's spent her past 8 years working towards. And she mentioned how bitter it is to get her first title and then immediately lose it to injury. But as she pointed out, she's like, at the same time, like, no injury has ever had the right timing. So I can't dwell on that too much. She basically, like, she's in good spirits about this. Like, she's bitter about it, but she basically talks about how her entire career has been about building herself, like, building back up, fighting through adversity, and this is just another challenge for her to beat. Reportedly already on her way to Alabama to get ACL surgery. I wish her the best for a quick recovery. I also really hope that this is an impetus for a good Sonya push when she gets back. She is somebody that has deserved way more than she's gotten. She has put up with a lot more than she has had to. And this injury does suck, but I really hope to see that things go well for her in the future. Like, I really want to see a good Sonya push. Like, she deserves a push after this.
I agree. And so I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a Nostradamus call right now. Typically, the time frame for an ACL is about 9 months, and that would put us in early May. I'm going to go ahead now and call it and say Sonya is our Night After Mania return. Honestly, Night After Mania, she doesn't have to be medically cleared to compete. She could just come back, remind people who she is, and have something lined up for Backlash.
I like that. That's a good call. I like that. There is one other thing also that needs to be discussed, and it's actually how she opened the video. And this has been discussed a little bit. Are the women's tag titles cursed? Ooh. That is the big discussion right now. Are those titles cursed? Look at how often those titles have been changed due to injury, due to storylines having to be rushed.
Madden cover. It's the Madden cover of WWE.
It's not just the Madden cover. Basically, what everyone said is that they have been cursed ever since what happened when Sasha and Naomi walked out. And all the bad juju from that moment, those titles are now cursed. Y'all know I'm pretty superstitious. I'm relatively superstitious in comparison to some things, to some people. And I can see it. I can totally
consider myself I consider myself a pretty spiritual person, and I can see it too.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to argue against that.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know. Those titles, they might just be cursed after all. That it's very and if that's the case, so someone was pointing out as well, there's not a single women's tag team on the roster that is both healthy, still together, and have won those titles. No teams exist on the roster right now. Zero.
That's a bad look.
It's
That's a
very
bad look.
very bad.
Hmm.
Those titles are fucking cursed.
Yeah, for sure.
Not to mention the fact that they dissolved the other pair because of the same
Right.
issues, because they were having a hard time keeping teams healthy.
Isla and Alba probably look real good right now for WWE.
Casey and Caden, maybe. Or Casey and Katana, excuse me. Or Caden and Katana. The Casey connection. Whatever. However you want to call them. Either way, like, those are the... Can you name any other teams besides those two?
No. No.
Where are your teams? What are you gonna do? Those titles are cursed. Because now, like,
Yeah.
now what are you gonna do? You vacated them because you put them on a makeshift team that was you were trying to acknowledge has been doing good. The both of them have been doing good, and they just kind of made it work. Now what are you gonna do with them?
Tournament.
Who's in the tournament?
It'll be a 4-team tournament.
And two of the teams are gonna be thrown together.
Exactly. That's the WWE way.
And then if that's the case, then who's left to challenge for those belts?
The other three teams in the tournament.
Like, at this point, remember how you were saying, like, you wanted those to be traveling titles and you wanted them to be defended on all three brands? At this point, those are NXT titles, because that's where you have the majority of your women's teams.
Yeah,
You've got like 5 women's teams, right? Tag teams right now in NXT. That's your entire NXT. That's your entire women's tag division at this point.
Yo, you're not wrong.
And when the only other 2 teams that we can think of are the 2 teams that were only recently called up and have barely gotten any TV time. Oh, I take that back. Wait, no. There's one more, and they were actually on TV last night getting involved in all the issues. Candice and Indy.
Oh, but they haven't won the belts though.
They haven't won the belts. They won the NXT belts.
Mm-hmm.
But that was when the titles were separated. They haven't won those women's titles yet. They had a moment where they started getting involved, where basically, like, people are starting to get, like, something they did last night. I fell asleep before it happened, but they did this whole thing where, like, as much as Rhea's been coming out and, like, getting involved and everything, a whole bunch of women came out and jumped Rhea last night because people are finally starting to get sick of Raquel came out and beat the brakes off of her, and then Candice and Indy came out and helped. Like, we're building the Rhea Raquel at least, thankfully, and I think that's still going to be a damn good match. But
yeah, for sure.
At this point, I mean, we need something because the rest of that women's division is just in dire straits. It's in dire straits right now. You got too many injuries. You got too many teams breaking up. Until at least, I want to see Raquel take that title off of Rhea and then immediately drop it to Shayna. That's what I want.
Transitional champ, okay. I like it.
Whatever. They could still get off a good couple matches out of it.
Not for another couple of months. Let Rhea hold that title a little bit.
That title, she's been holding that title for a couple of months now, and she ain't done shit with it.
Yeah, you're also not wrong there. That's not her fault.
That bullshit feud with Natty. The bullshit, like, all the other bullshit. She hasn't done shit with that title since she won it. And frankly, it's a new title. You can afford to hotshot that thing around a little bit.
Yeah, you're right.
I don't know. Just saying.
Anyway.
All right. We've talked about the WWE more than enough. We're already an hour into this thing, and we've only just now got done with WWE. We're gonna be here for a while. Fuck me running. Let's speed through our G1 update. A block, Sonata and Hikuleo move on. Again, that A block got real jumbled up there at the end. 4 points to 8 points between second and last, and everyone else scattered in between. A lot of people made a lot of good pushes, but inevitably Hikuleo in his debut. They've been making him out to be a real hitter lately. Sonata undefeated, so he's going in. He's the only undefeated person going into the finals. Moving on to the B block, as we predicted, Okada and Ospreay move on. Ospreay still with that victory over Okada, so that's still going to be a thing. Our C block, which was just decided last night, Eddie Kingston putting on a hell of a showing against David Finlay, but inevitably coming up with the L. The winner of that match was the one to move on, so Finlay moves on. Evil secures his spot as well with his final victory. I believe it was against Ishii or Takagi. One of them. Either way, Evil moved on because he had 10 points as well. Fucking, I don't remember. I'm losing track. I was having a really look. I almost barely forgot to do updates on this. I had to like get caught up right before we went on stream. Like as I was eating dinner, I was like getting caught up. And then the D block is undecided. That will be tonight. You've got Cobb, Naito, and Zack Sabre Jr. all tied at 8 points. Tanahashi and Goto are right behind them with 2. It's still between those 5. It's anybody's game. It really could go either way on who the 2 are that are going to move on. It's kind of hard to predict. I mean, especially when you have Naito facing Tanahashi. If Tanahashi wins that, and that's another person tied at 8 points. If Shane Haste gets another upset, like he got an upset over Naito, he could keep Cobb from moving on. Like there's a whole lot of different ways. If Goto beats Zack Sabre Jr., he ties it up. So the D block is still like anybody's game, and it's kind of hard.
Tonight would be the night.
And I'm at it, and it's kind of hard to make predictions on playoffs until then.
Yeah.
So like we already know Sonata will face Osprey. Ooh. Already on one side of the playoffs, we're getting Sonata versus Osprey and Hikuleo versus Okada.
That's a good fucking playoff match right there.
Sonata, Osprey, Okada, Hikuleo. I'm sorry, Hikuleo is probably going to take that L against Okada because it's Okada.
Yeah.
But
right. Yeah.
Still, that's a damn good ending. The ending of the B block came down to Osprey and LP facing off against each other, and LP, of course, having that good run. If El Phantasmo would have beaten Osprey, then he would have made it in on tiebreakers. And again, there's been a lot of praise for Eddie Kingston throughout the G1. Everyone was saying that that was like a heartbreaking match to watch him lose to David Finlay. He had a damn good showing. I said he was going to be a 500 guy. He came in 4-3. So
it's about as close as you can get in these things when there's an odd number of matches. So
yep. They booked him strong. He looked great. He still had a great G1. He had a damn good victory over Tama Tonga. Moving on from there, I want to touch on a couple things from Dynamite 200. 5 big points from Dynamite 2000 or 200. Point 1 was actually the opener. You had Jericho and Takeshita facing Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. They're further teasing the dissolution of the Jericho Appreciation Society, which is honestly I'm okay with because I feel like it's run its course and everyone's moving on to other things. I would still like to see Sammy and Danny be a tag team. Let them continue that with that. If not, I want to see Sammy get his push.
I agree. Sammy deserves it.
I think it's time. Videos of him and Ty have been coming up on my feed on like social media and stuff. And just seeing how happy the two of them are for their first kid is just, I don't know, it's just heartwarming. As much as you want to hate them for their personalities, they're so wholesome in real life.
They're good at the job.
Good for them. Point 2. Jack Perry was teasing this whole feud with Jerry Lynn. And I was saying from the very beginning, we're not getting Jerry Lynn back in the ring. What I was not expecting was for RVD to become All Elite and take on Jack Perry. I didn't see that one coming, but
no.
I also think this is just another Tony Khan was able to get his hands on a legend and decided he wanted to do it anyways.
Always a fan of RVD, so happy he's back and
happy he gets a payday, happy he gets television time. Fuck it.
Yep.
Point 3. 2 major re-signings for the company. The first one being the Elite. Ignore all the smoke and mirrors. We always knew they were going to sign. It was just a matter of when it was going to happen. All 4 of them, the Bucks, Omega, and Hangman. The Bucks and Omega are going to be keeping their EVP statuses. They made a huge press conference about it. They have been said to have NBA money contracts, whatever that may mean. So good for them. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind they were ever going to leave. They said it came down to like it had to be like a whole group majority rule kind of thing, and they really did think about it quite a bit. But at the end of the day, I still don't believe there was any way they were leaving. There was no way that Tony Khan was going to let them walk.
No, not a chance.
He would have thrown money at that until they made it happen, and that's probably what happened.
Especially after seeing the way the WWE is treating Cody, he wouldn't let them leave.
Yeah, I guarantee you they got a nice that NBA money paycheck. That's probably bigger than a lot of people's contracts. I guarantee
8 digits.
You think 8 digits?
NBA money, Supermaxes are worth hundreds of millions.
That's fair. Yeah. If I can agree, yeah, especially if they're EVPs, yeah, they deserve 8 digits.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. And then not to be overshadowed by that, so this is technically like a sixth point. After the press conference came out about the Elite re-signing, we had another original stable announce their re-signing, and Evil Uno announcing that the entire Dark Order has re-signed. Well, at least I'm assuming in this case it would be him, Silver, and Reynolds. And then he basically goes, well, where was our press release? Which is so tongue-in-cheek for Dark Order. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how a Dark Order has survived this long, but I'm so glad that they have.
LLBL. Long live Brody Lee.
Point number 4, MJF cutting the biggest of babyface promos, talking about how much the fans had turned on him for his AD, like how much he was worried about the fans turning on him for his ADD and anxiety. He cuts a damn good babyface promo, talking about how much Adam Cole has, like, this whole friendship between him and Adam Cole has blossomed into as much as it is. He basically says, Adam, like, I know you want a title shot, but it can't just be any title shot. It has to be the title shot. And announces that he's challenged Adam Cole for the AEW World Championship at All In. We were all wondering how we were going to get there, if it was going to be a matter of turning on each other. The fact that you're basically using this as an avenue to give MJF a mini babyface push, it's going to hurt more when that betrayal happens.
Yep.
It's going to hurt, but it was unexpected the way they did it, and it was beautiful how they did it.
And it'll be really good storytelling. I'll give them credit there.
And they're going to do some real good storytelling in Wembley if that's the case.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all you can really say. And then the last point, Hikaru Shida in the main event, wins the AEW Women's Championship from Toni Storm. There's been a lot of discussion about how badly the AEW Women's Division is struggling. If anyone else remembers Shida's first run with the title, she put on a damn good run. She put on great match after great match after great match.
Yeah.
I think this might be the start of not necessarily a rebirth, but like a rehabilitation project for that women's division.
Revitalization,
yeah, great example. Great word to use. We finally got through all the wrestling.
Football.
We were talking contracts. Let's talk some contracts.
Your team was busy.
Oh, yes, we were. We signed this week, the Panthers signed 4-time Pro Bowler linebacker Justin Houston, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs. So I realized something when I was doing the research on all this. And they pointed this out. We signed Ejiro Evero as our defensive coordinator this year. Avero's turning our defense from a 4-3 to a 3-4. I didn't realize that. Carolina has historically been a 4-3 team. I've always just envisioned us 2 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends. Your middle linebacker was usually, at the time, was Luke. And then you had your 2 outsides. Shaq was out there for a hot minute. Shaq is still out there on a hot minute. This means that Justin Houston is going to be lining up next to Brian Burns. Imagine that 2 linebacker combo.
Just want to point out for the fans, no relation to you.
No, and that took me a second, actually. I don't know why, but it took me a second. Shut up. We've historically, like, the middle linebacker position, look at the history we have there. Like, Luke, Shaq, putting in the numbers, and now Brian Burns. We have been the monsters of the linebacker position. Another thing that was pointed out as well was that with this change in the scheme, Yetur Gross-Matos actually moved from defensive end to outside linebacker, and he said it's been a breath of fresh air for him. So you've got that midline for us is Shaq, Justin Houston, Brian Burns, Yetur Gross-Matos, and then you still have our front 3 to deal with. We've always had a good defense.
I think you guys are... Fuck, man, I'm getting attacked out here. I think you guys are dark horses for the NFC South.
Everybody's a dark horse right now for the NFC South, though, so...
I think you guys are a lighter colored horse for the NFC South.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
I got it.
So I got to talk about my team. You want to talk about the other big signing? The Bears signing Yannick Ngakoue, one of the biggest free agents that was still left on the field.
1 year, $10.5 million.
Yep.
Yeah, somebody put out. I don't remember who it was. I apologize, and I don't want to mess with our stream because I am doing this on my phone. Somebody put out a list of like the top 25 free agents, and I believe Ngakoue was like top five.
He was number
Uh,
4, if I remember correctly.
okay, so the Bears go out and they sign him, which like good for the Bears, good for Yannick.
Mm-hmm.
Ngakoue is a hell of a player, has been for a couple of seasons now.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing about that though is like the Bears have no O line. They have no O line.
Doesn't matter. He's on the D line.
I understand, but then we saw what happened last year. Denver had a great defense, and their offense couldn't score points. So
There was a lot of dissension on that team, though.
I agree, but it's But
He's
hey,
coming
man,
from the Jags. Is that right?
he started in the Jags.
I know he
think
started there. I don't remember if he's coming from there. He was with the Colts.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he was with the Colts.
That's right.
But
I believe you won.
but yes, he was drafted by the Jaguars. And why you were thinking Baltimore is because he played college ball in Maryland.
Okay.
So
Okay.
close.
Close.
The other big contract, it's not really a contract update, but a player update. Alvin Kamara getting suspended for the 3 games. We've been keeping track of his whole incident outside that nightclub in Vegas. It has come to a head. They suspended him 3 games for a violation of the personal conduct policy. We knew something was going to come down. We have our answer. What do you think?
So
You're over here making
things.
You're over here
Yeah.
making faces. You got some thoughts.
I have 2 things. One's funny, one's serious. Uh, first, he beat a man badly on camera
Mm-hmm.
and got suspended 3 games. It's not like he did something as heinous as gambling.
That's a heavy. That's heavy. They suspended him less than the people are getting suspended for gambling.
For beating a man very badly. Very badly. So the NFL suspension program or suspension committee who decides suspensions is a fucking joke.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, and I stand by it. Yeah, fucking put my stamp on it. And then the other thing would be, he's lucky he got to play last season because this incident happened in technically early 2021.
That's true.
Or
Yeah,
2020.
this happened before last season. They could have easily told
Correct.
like left him on the PUP.
He's lucky he got to play and a 3-game suspension. People that do steroids or performance enhancing get longer suspensions. So if I'm Alvin Kamara, I'm gonna sit back, shut the fuck up, take my 3 games. I'll see you all week 4.
I also don't think he's going to be that great of a running back this year.
I'll draft him.
You go ahead and draft him. Watch all his
If I can
touchdowns get vultured by Jamal Williams.
He is a touchdown vulture, but I think Alvin Kamara is
17
good for.
touchdowns last year. He was the
think Alvin Kamara-
touchdown vulture.
Alvin Kamara is going to be good for 60 to 75 catches and 800 yards receiving, though, from the running back position.
I think Jamal Williams takes some of that production. I think he's going to take some of that production. I don't know. That's just my prediction. That's my prediction. I'm also a Saints hater because I'm a Panthers fan. So
True.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a 3-game suspension. Again, if I'm the Saints, I've talked to my buddy Kyle, and I know he's like 3 games, okay, like
Right.
I think it was Kyle who said something along the lines of like, if we can get Michael Thomas for those 3 games while he's suspended, then it's a good season or something like that.
Which I don't even think. Well, and that's the other thing too. Michael Thomas has played somebody pointed out. Michael Thomas has played, I think, 10 games total in the past 3 seasons. Like he is a long way removed from his star making performance in 2019.
His NFL record didn't he break the record for most catches in a season that year?
I don't think it was that many. I know he set the season mark, but I don't think I don't think it was the record. On the plus side, though, let's talk about something even more fun, and that's the fact that football is back officially.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
officially
is
back. We have the Hall of Fame game this week. I caught the highlights. I didn't get to catch the game because I was working.
I'm not. look, I'm glad football's back, but I'm not watching the Hall of Fame game with a bunch of fourth, fifth, and sixth stringers playing
Yeah,
because they're the only two teams that get 4 preseason games where everybody else gets 3.
yeah.
So yeah, I didn't watch it either. I didn't even bother watching highlights, to be honest with you. But I'm glad football's back because that means we are honestly days away from football.
We are. So the countdown right now on our fantasy league to our draft is showing, I think, 30. Well, now I think it's at like 28 days since the last time I looked at it, because it would be 4 weeks from tonight. Which let's also address right now. Tuesday, September 5th, we will likely not have an episode, or if we do, it will be on a different day that week. On Tuesday, September 5th, live on my Twitch channel at dburnstv, we will be doing our draft. We do this every year. This is going to be the 3rd year in a row that we've done it. We do a live draft. We do a draft special where everyone gets on the call, and you actually get to participate this year.
Yes, I do.
You actually get to participate this year. But
Mm-hmm.
For those of you that have followed me long enough, you will remember that it turned into one of my most famous moments on my channel. The Tony Pollard debacle of 2022. We were all quietly telegraphing that we were all staring at Tony Pollard, getting ready to draft him, and then right before all 4 people in the group chat were about to take him, the pick right before that, our buddy Chris, the guy that won the league, they took 2nd place in the league, drafted Tony Pollard. And everyone in the voice chat on live on Twitch actively just went, "Oh, son of a," like you hear me go, "Son of a bitch," you hear Katie go, "Ah, god damn it," you hear Luis and Kevin in the background like, "Oh, come on." And we're literally like, it's a 5-minute moment of us just talking about we're all getting ready to draft somebody because we see him on the board and there's no reason why he's still on the board. And we're talking like draft strategy, and I start talking about, no, I literally, like, I had it planned. I want him in the 7th round. That's when I'm gonna draft him, and I was 1 pick away. 1 pick. So,
Yeah.
what kind of craziness is gonna happen on draft night this season? Who knows? But we will be live if you'll want to watch along.
The last few years I've had to draft while working, and it's not a very great way to have to do your fantasy draft. So I'm looking forward to not having that be the case for me this year.
Yeah, you actually get to focus on the draft this year. You get to be in the group chat. You get to be part of the whole thing. So, should be fun.
Yep.
Anyways, getting back on topic with the Hall of Fame game. We don't give too many shits about the game itself. We already discussed that. Let's discuss, though. We have our Hall of Fame inductees. We know we've talked about them before already on the show. Let's just go ahead and run them back again. Rondé Barber, Don Coryell, Chuck Howley, Joe Klecko, Darrell Revis, Ken Riley, Joe Thomas, Zach Thomas, and DeMarcus Ware. Congratulations to all those guys. When we first discussed it, when they got announced, every single one of those guys definitely deserves it. Great seeing some first ballot names getting mentioned. Revis, people are still discussing, was he the greatest cornerback of all time? Like, that's overinflating it, but he was definitely one of the top 10 of all time.
Easily. But
Zach Thomas and
you're not
Joe.
passing.
Zach Thomas, our buddy Dave, giant Dolphins fan, was just preaching about Zach Thomas all week. It's like, he's in the Hall of Fame. He's in the Hall of Fame. Good for him. Joe Thomas, of course.
Iron Man.
He may have gotten a little out of pocket on social media recently, but when he was making fun of Jeff Saturday, but
Yeah.
that doesn't change the fact that he was a damn good player.
And loyal. He never left Cleveland.
Probably one of the greatest players ever to play on the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I'll let you take the reins on DeMarcus Ware.
Man, my boy DeMarcus Ware, man, those are some of my earliest memories. Not my earliest, that's a bit facetious, but I loved watching him play down in Dallas. I truly thought he would be a Cowboy forever. However, he did leave us and he went to Denver. But because he did that, he was able to get a ring. And
against us, but
I'm glad he got a Super Bowl ring. I'm glad he got a Hall of Fame ring. And I'm glad he went in as a Cowboy.
Also true. Adam Schefter actually put out a list of notable first-time eligible players for the Hall of Fame for 2024. And let's discuss these names just real quick. Eric Berry.
No.
No?
No.
You don't think he gets it first ballot?
No.
Okay.
Not first ballot.
I mean, he was a great safety, but
He was, and I know he came back from, I believe it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. Excuse me.
I forgot about that.
He won comeback player of the year.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, Jamal Charles.
Not first ballot, but gets in.
You think second? I think second ballot too. Like
I,
he had good
within
seasons,
5.
but yeah, within 5. I'll give him within 5. This one I'm sure is going in. Antonio Gates.
Yeah.
100%. Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
He's on the tight end Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew Luck.
No.
I don't think so either. I don't
think he gets in at all.
Really?
Yeah. Longevity. He would 100% go in the Hall of Great. He will not go in the Hall of Fame. He did not play long enough. He does not have enough stats behind it. I understand that what he did while he was playing was absolutely impressive, especially playing behind that turnstile of an offensive line in Indy. Mm-hmm. But let's not forget that turnstile of an offensive line in Indy is why he's not in the league playing now.
That's true. And also to mention, like, we covered when he did that interview with ESPN, basically said, I'm happy with the decision I made, that if I don't go into the Hall of Fame, I'm happy because I know that at the same time I didn't let my career get the better of me, and I gave up my personal health, my ability to spend time with my family and actually be a family man. I chose that over my career, and I will never not say no to that. If this keeps him out of the Hall of Fame, he called it himself. Respect either way. Respect either way. He gets more respect than anything for just knowing when to quit.
Yep.
Because there's so many people that let their pride get to them and be like, nah, we're doing this.
We see it in wrestling all the time. People that should have hung it up years earlier and they don't.
We literally just got done talking about how both Big E and Randy Orton have been told you shouldn't wrestle again, and they're both being too stubborn about it. Well, not so much Big E as Randy, but yeah, great example of it right there. Brandon Marshall.
No,
I don't think so either. Haloti Ngata. I say yes.
Maybe not. I mean, he was a hell of a defensive tackle, and defensive tackle is such a hard position because you don't get a lot of the stats that your edge rushers get and everything. But good God, Haloti Ngata was a beast. I have something for you and the fans watching this.
I'm trying to look this up real quick.
Okay, well, while you're looking that up, I have something for you and our fans. Go back and look at Haloti Ngata's high school clips. He was a running back in high school.
Christ.
They are gnarly.
First off, he's got a ring. 2-time first team All-Pro, 3-time second team All-Pro, 5-time Pro Bowler.
I do think he gets in. I don't know about first ballot only because of the position he played. Again, defensive tackle is so difficult because they don't have them, just like offensive line. O-linemen don't get stats.
I think that because of the impact that he made at his position, just in the same way that everyone gave credit to Joe Thomas in the way that he played his role as one of the greatest to ever play on a line. Ngata is one of the greatest players to ever play on a defensive line. And I stand by that.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I think, first ballot for him. And then the last one, I will preach deserves it till the day I die. Julius Peppers. I'm sorry. I will die on that hill.
I'm with you. Julius Peppers was
a monster.
I remember being in like elementary school, and at the book fair, I bought a player, like an NFL player's book or some shit, and Julius Peppers was in it, and like I remember Julius Peppers being one of the first like names that I like remembered.
Pep was that guy for our defense for so many years, and even after he left and went to Green Bay and Chicago, I still had love for Pep. The only reason I didn't have love for Pep was because he graduated from UNC. That's the only reason I have a little bit less love. But other than that, Pep's an all-time great. I'm sorry.
I don't think he's a first ballot, but I think second, or I say within 3.
I stand by first ballot for Pep. I stand by that.
Fair enough.
I will die on that hill, and I guarantee you he goes in as a Panther. Guarantee it.
100%.
We finally made it. Are you ready for some leftovers?
Yes, because when I get out of here, I'm going to eat. So yes.
All right. So we mentioned it earlier. Oregon and Washington announced we don't normally cover college
College.
football, but for this situation we will. Oregon and Washington have pledged to leave the Pac-12 and will be joining the Big Ten. Now, we don't really follow college football that much. However, we recognize when there are major shifts in conference lines. This is a major shift.
Yes, and I think that this is leading to the inevitable, which will be the NCAA will become like the NFL with maybe, I don't know about two conferences like an AFC and an NFC, but I think that maybe we get to a Power Four, maybe ACC, Big Ten, SEC, and someone.
It's going to be more than four because it'll be Big Ten, Big 12, Pac-10, or whatever numbers they are at this point. Pac-12. Well, now they're back to the Pac-10. So the Pac-10, the Big 10, the Big 12. Is the Big 12 even still a thing?
No.
Okay, so then it'd be the Pac-10, the Big 12 in this situation, and then SEC and ACC.
They're already at 11.
Then that would be 13. Oh. Then they're just gonna have to. Yeah. They're gonna have to figure it out their own. Let's be real. Every time they change teams around, they change the numbers. Just like how we watched the ACC fluctuate between 12 and 16 teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest way to go about this is called the Northwest, East, and South.
I mean, inevitably, again, like you said, we're inevitably going to come to a point where there's just going to be complete redistricting. Maybe they keep conference names just for historical sakes, but I think we're going to end up getting to that point where everyone's in one of the all the real competing teams are in one of the top 5, and then all the top 5 conferences, and then you have a 6th conference of all the little guys coming through. And they're just
and then there's Notre Dame.
And then Notre Dame will just forever be a free agent. You put this one in. I'm going to let you talk about it. But Johnny Manziel said that after being cut by the Browns in 2016, he went on a quote-unquote $5 million bender.
I believe Johnny Manziel has a documentary. Actually, I believe it came out today on Netflix. And it's basically just what, Johnny Manziel, the rise and fall of Johnny Manziel, essentially.
Looks like it came out today.
And he said that after... Okay.
Yep. 12 hours ago, posted on the Netflix Twitter, Johnny Football is now on Netflix. Johnny Manziel and the tragedy of a fallen football idol. Johnny Manziel admitted to watching no tape during Brown's tenure.
So after the Browns cut him in 2016, he said he went on a $5 million bender where his plan was to spend as much money as possible, and then he had plans of suicide. I am glad that it did not come to that, because I obviously never want to see anybody have to go through that. But yeah, a $5 million bender, bro. Could you imagine what that party was like?
God. You and me had our party days, that was different. And we never nearly came down to $5 million.
I don't even think we ever spent 500, bro. Not in a night.
No, we've definitely broken 500 in a night.
Yeah, you're right.
We've definitely broken 500 in a night a couple times. That's different. We don't need to talk about those. That's our past. We don't need to talk about that.
Correct.
Anyways.
Correct. But no, from all accounts, it seems that Johnny Manziel is doing much better now. Mm-hmm. So that makes me happy. I'm glad to hear that because I don't want anybody to have to go through that kind of pain.
See, I will never... because I've always, not necessarily hated Johnny Manziel. I never really hated him.
I wasn't a fan.
I wasn't a fan, but I never really hated him. But I do remember one of the first reasons I really, didn't like him, he was that quarterback for Texas A&M when they beat Duke in the Rose Bowl. I'm never going to let that one go. If only because I remember logging onto Reddit and seeing that somebody completely rewrote "The Devil Went Down to Georgia" to take it as Johnny went down to the Rose Bowl to defeat the Blue Devils. And I have it saved somewhere, but I remember that post pissed me off so much, but I couldn't be mad because it was so well done.
Johnny Football.
Spotted on Twitter. Blue Cane is back. And I am so happy he's back. This whole thing with Blue Cane is so tongue-in-cheek. He has resurfaced on Twitter as Blue K. Everything is censored. He's his picture is blurred out on everything. Everything is redacted. And then he posted that his pinned post was, "Hey, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. I got locked in a walk-in freezer for a week." As former service industry workers, we can appreciate that.
Big time.
I love it
Big
so
time.
much, and I love the commitment to kayfabe.
Here's a fun fact for you. AJ Styles has now been a WWE superstar longer than The Rock and Austin.
Insane. Which he put up a good showing in the Battle Royal as well. Let's not forget.
Full time performer. Because obviously The Rock has been tied for years, and so is Austin. Austin just had that match at Mania last year. But anyway, full time performer. AJ Styles has been around longer than Rock and Austin.
Yeah. And then for our final note, you mentioned it earlier today, but I did want to keep this as final because, and there's a reason why. PW Insider reporting that Kairi Sane is reportedly on her way back to the WWE. Her return is imminent and could happen as soon as this week.
It's a real auspicious timing there with Kairi coming after Io wins the fucking belt, wouldn't you say?
One, it would make sense for, if that's the case, please let Asuka and Kairi go back to being tag team champs.
Kabuki Warriors.
I'm not opposed to that. But my bigger argument, and this is something when Sean Ross Sapp was asked about it, and he commented on it, he brought up a really good point. If Kairi is re-signed, then that's officially saying that this hiring freeze is over. We've heard a lot of people coming back since then. We've seen people that we heard were coming back and then ended up leaving before they ever made it back on television. Eric Young. So the way Sean Ross Sapp said it last night, and I completely agree with him, until she shows up on television, I'll believe it when I see it.
That's fair. But while you're on this subject, it made me think of something.
Okay.
We've obviously covered the hiring freeze for months. We've talked about it. We've noticed that nobody has really come in. You also talked about last week the Cody Rhodes documentary, and I brought it up earlier in the stream. Matt Cardona was in that documentary a lot.
Well, that's also because him and Cody are really good friends.
Yes, but do you think that there might be some underlying things there, maybe?
I think at this point, especially, and this is coming to me right now. Honestly, this is like on the spot. I'm thinking this because you mentioned this. I think that with Sonya's injury and her and Chelsea having to forfeit the titles, Chelsea needs something new. Now is a good time.
Look at my shiny husband.
I think now is especially if you want to continue to give Chelsea a push and you're trying to recognize the hard work that she's put in. If any time was the right time, it's now. And especially because a lot of people were remarking that last night's Raw was a marked upgrade. We've been talking about this big surgery, life-altering surgery that Vince got. That's going to keep him away from television for a few weeks while he recovers. Last night was very much a Triple H show, and it felt like it. And like the booking is starting to make sense. You've got JD McDonough starting to get involved with the Judgment Day again. You're starting to see more out of the women's division actually getting booked. Like things are starting to like make sense again. If we're also going to get the end of the hiring freeze out of this, let it be the right time while Vince can't fuck things up.
Also, we talked about it earlier in the stream. Where does Cody go from here? Look at Chelsea's shiny new husband.
How would you artificially get Cardona to face off against Rhodes, though?
It could be something silly as a small filler feud for Cody.
Oh, I agree. But how could you realistically build that story is the question.
I mean, Chelsea Green's character is so outlandish. You could have Cody bump into her in the back, her demand an apology. He says no. She says, I'm calling my husband. Cardona shows up and says, hey, bro, you bumped into my wife. We've seen storylines start over coffee before, Kane and Jericho.
I mean, yeah, but like, I mean, I guess you're right. They could definitely find a way, need be. I mean, we've already talked about like it's been sloppy, but at least they're getting to where they need to be with these storylines. If it ends up being a sloppy way to do it, but if it still leads to that, I wouldn't be opposed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and as long as so remember when Cody came back at Mania last year and he did the Stardust hand thing. As long as we can get, sorry, I got to tilt you down so I can do this because I need both hands. As long as we can get Zack Ryder doing the, wiping away the Long Island, I think it would be a nice little Little callback for people like us.
He can climb up the side of the stage where he got thrown off.
He can do the woo 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 one time.
Nice, good broski boot. Yeah, I could see it. I could see them finding a way to do it, and I wouldn't be opposed.
All right, guys, that's the end of our stream. I'm getting eaten alive out here.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna let you get out of here. That's been it for us, though. We'll be back next week. I'm sure there's gonna be way more news to cover. As always, every little bit of support helps. So make sure you leave a subscribe, leave a follow, leave a like on this video, and leave your expectations at the door. We're out of here. We'll see you guys next week. You'll be home, right?
I will.
All right. Yeah, we'll go from there from our regularly scheduled programming. We made it work. We made it work, though, with you being on your phone. You don't even fit the frame properly, but we're going to make it work.
Nope.
All right. That's going to do it for us, though. For Bobby Boomerang, I'm Dick Burns. We'll see you guys next week. Y'all have a great night. Great time zone wherever you are.
Great time zone.
You've never heard that one before? Great time zone.
No.